One of the most common contract issues that thought-leading entrepreneurs like speakers and influencers face is late payment, especially when working with big brands that have big accounting departments. Hi, I'm Casey, entertainment lawyer for Black creatives and entrepreneurs. And in this video, I'm going to give you 2 negotiation strategies to help you get paid on time. The first is to include detailed and definitive payment terms. I cannot stress this enough. Payment terms are always going to be in these contracts, but where many people fail is that there are variable terms that allow for a lot of ambiguity in these contracts and when you're going to get paid. A common example of this is once an invoice is submitted. I've seen countless times where brands will come back later and say, well, yeah, you submitted the invoice, but this department or this person didn't approve the invoice. So now we have questions on what is the approval process? Who has to approve the invoice once it's submitted to make sure that I get paid? Another example of this is within X amount of days of an event. Well, what happens if the event is canceled or postponed? Is the 15 days now going to start from the new event date? Am I going to get paid at all if the event's canceled? What are going to be the terms and the remedies in those situations? And another very common example, and if you work in these industries and see these contracts often, I know you're familiar with net 90, net 30 type of terms. And again, this just creates a lot of ambiguity because oftentimes there become issues of, well, when does the 90 days start? Is it when the contract is signed? Is it when it's signed by just the creator, or does it have to be signed by both parties? And is it going to be attached to a campaign? So this is really common in the influencer marketing space. Does that net 90 start once the contract is signed or once the last post goes out? And what exactly does that look like? So instead of having these variable terms and contracts, make sure that you also include very definitive language as well, where you say things such as no later than, or you include specific dates for payment. A great way to include specific dates for payment is to require some sort of deposit by a certain date to at least make sure that you're getting paid something at a specific time point, regardless of what other things may come up. So again, the first one is to make sure that you have detailed and definitive terms around payment. The second is to negotiate remedies for late payment up front. Negotiations are a continual process. You likely work with the same brands over and over again. And if you're new in this space, that's something for you to realize that you're going to work with the same companies and the same brands time and time again. So it's good to establish your guidelines for payment and what consequences there will be in the event that payment isn't made on time or payment isn't made at all. So you can include things such as interest if a payment isn't included or made at a certain time. You can have certain consequences in place, that you won't appear for an event or you won't speak at an event if a certain percentage or deposit isn't paid on time under the contract. And make sure that one big thing that I see in a lot of contracts, and it's always just a huge red flag, is to make sure that you don't give up your legal rights to enforce remedies if you don't get paid. A lot of big brands will actually have language that says that you can't have any legal remedies in the event of non-payment. So, and oftentimes this language is kind of buried somewhere in the contract, and a lot of entrepreneurs and creatives don't think a whole lot of it. But you want to make sure that you don't give up your legal right to have the ability to pursue a payment if a company doesn't pay you. Now, a big thing to note here as well is that oftentimes when you have these conversations about remedies and consequences for non-payment, oftentimes you avoid the issue of non-payment even happening at all. Having these upfront conversations just allows for more transparency in negotiations. It makes sure that the company and the brands know that you're serious about what it is that you're doing, that you've taken time to really review the contract, and you're outlining what your guidelines and your requirements are when working with you. I hope that these 2 tips have been helpful for you. If so, make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can get more tips and insights like this.